Welcome to Fabrity Talks, where we share our experience and best practices in designing, building, and implementing custom software and digital solutions. In Season 2, we focus on providing IT executives with practical business insights that can be seamlessly put into practice in your organizations. Our goal is to help CIOs, CTOs, product owners, and IT project managers to make informed decisions and minimize risks related to building IT solutions. If you need support with your software project or have any questions, just go to our website fabrity.com and schedule a free 15-minute discovery call. Together we will see how we can help you. You can access every episode of our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Without further ado, let's get started.
Hello everyone, I'm Bartosz Michałowski from Fabrity. My job is all about making sure our clients' projects start off smoothly. Today, we are going to talk about the 10 biggest pitfalls to avoid when you are setting your IT project specifications. Why is this so important? Well, having a clear and well-prepared specification is key to the success of any custom software project. It is crucial for both the client and the IT service provider, in my opinion. That's why I want to share what we have learned from our experience in building software for clients worldwide. I hope this guide will help you to create a solid project specification for your next software development project, helping you find the best solution that fits your business needs and budget as well. Let's get started. We are going to talk about the 10 biggest pitfalls to avoid when you are setting up your IT project specifications. Pitfall number 1. This is a common issue in IT projects. Specification and requirements are just too vague. When the details aren't clear, everyone has their own interpretation, which can lead to a wide range of estimates for the budget and timeline. And sometimes these differences can really inflate the project cost. Let's say a project specs ask for a feature where users can generate reports from data, but it doesn't say much else. How many reports? Who is going to use them? What kind of data? Without these details, we could end up making something super complex with tons of features, or something really basic. Both would technically meet the spec, but the cost and usefulness could be worlds apart. Here is the kicker. If we can't ask questions to clear up the confusion, we have to guess what's needed. And our guess might not match what the client actually wanted, leading to issues down the line. So, how do you avoid falling into this trap? Whenever you are setting out a requirement and you are not sure about the details, make sure to include some context. Think about who will use this feature, why it's needed, and how flexible it should be. This helps your IT team make informed decisions, keeping your project on track and within budget. Pitfall number 2. Now, let's talk about another common snag: overly detailed project specs. You might think that throwing in every single detail is helpful, but it actually doesn't add much value when it comes to figuring out the project scope, cost, or timeline. Too much detail can just create extra work without getting us any closer to the final product. Remember, there is usually a phase in the project where business analysts will hash out all these details, so there's no need to go overboard in the initial spec. Plus, getting bogged down in the small details can sometimes mean we lose sight of what's really important, the main goals and needs of the business. For example, we once saw a spec that went into extreme detail about the data model, which was overkill. What was missing, though, was a clear description of the business processes, which would have been far more useful for us and less time-consuming for the client to put together. It would have made it easier for us to understand the project and its complexity. So, how do you avoid this? Aim for a balanced approach. The key requirements, the ones that really matter, should get more attention and detail. The less critical stuff, keep it brief. That way, You highlight what's most important, making sure the IT team focuses on what truly matters. A spec isn't meant to be a novel. It should be clear, concise, and to the point, ensuring that the IT team's efforts are directed where they are needed most. Pitfall number 3. Let's tackle another big issue: not checking if the spec is complete. This oversight can lead to some really tricky situations. First off, imagine if a buyer accepts an offer that seems to meet the requirements but doesn't actually fit the business's real goals. Down the line, that could mean having to stretch the budget further or settling for a solution that doesn't do everything needed. Either way, you are in for a challenging time making adjustments. Then, there's the problem of comparing offers. If the spec isn't clear or complete, you might get bids that look great because they are low priced, but that skip over some key needs. Or you may have providers trying to cover all bases, making the proposals more expensive and less competitive. We once saw a spec for automatic order processing that included the use of data from an existing system without considering updates or changes post-deployment. Sticking strictly to such a spec could lead to a solution that doesn't fully serve the business's needs, forcing a choice between extra costs or missing functionalities. So, how do you avoid this pitfall? Take your time crafting that spec, double-check it, and then check it again. Get different people involved. Different perspectives can help you spot different issues. And think about adding a step in your process for IT providers to ask questions or flag concerns. That way, you ensure your spec is not just complete, but also clear and aligned with your project's true goals. Pitfall number 4. Now onto a crucial aspect that's often overlooked: making sure your project spec is both coherent and consistent. Why does it matter? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You can meet requirements that contradict each other. Sometimes these contradictions are clear as day, but other times they are more subtle, buried in the details of how the project should come together. What happens when a contradiction slips through? A trustworthy IT provider will flag it, asking for clarification, or based on their experience, they might try to navigate around the inconsistency, but that's not ideal. If the contradictions are too significant, they might even have to back out of the project. Let's look at a real example. Imagine a project where the goal is to secure legal documents with end-to-end encryption, but another part of the spec asks for validation rules that would require access to unencrypted data. That's a no-go. Or consider a spec that just copies generic requirements without tailoring them to the specific project. That's a recipe for confusion. Avoiding this pitfall is all about thorough multi-layered checks. Often, these issues arise when different people from various departments contribute without a unified vision. A detailed review process involving all stakeholders is key, and partnering with an IT service provider that's not just skilled but also vigilant can save you from these hidden traps. They are your safety net, catching contradictions before they become costly errors. Pitfall number 5. Here's a scenario we've seen more than a few times. The project spec gets put together by folks who know the business inside out but don't have much of a tech background. This can lead to a disconnect between what's asked for and what's actually involved in making it happen, both in terms of cost and time. Why is this a problem? Well, the thing is, the importance of a requirement to the business doesn't always line up with how complex or costly it is to implement. What seems like a small tweak can end up having a big impact on the budget. For instance, consider a system that tracks changes. If the business side of things just wants to know who made a change and when, that's pretty straightforward. But if the requirement sounds like it is asking to track every detail of every change, that's a whole different story in terms of complexity and cost. So, what's the solution? it is crucial to get input from people with technical expertise right from the start. They can help make sure that the spec reflects what's actually doable and affordable. And if you can't get pitfalls involved early on, at least do a thorough analysis to figure out which requirements might need more work than it might first appear. One approach is to ask your IT service provider to give you an idea of how much work of each part of the project will take. But remember, this is more of a rough estimate. The real key is making sure your spec is grounded in a solid understanding of both the business needs and the technical realities. That way, you won't be surprised by the cost or timeline. Pitfall number 6. Another common trap is writing specs that are too broad or vague, hoping that the IT service provider's experience will fill in the gaps. Here's why that's risky. Every custom software project is a world of its own. Even if two projects seem similar on the surface, the devil is in the details. The specific needs of your organization, how the new solution fits with your existing systems, and countless other factors mean that costs and complexities can vary widely from one project to the next. Consider something as straightforward as a system for handling leave requests. At its core, it's simple, right? But once you start factoring in your organization's unique needs, like linking up with your payroll system, integrating with your other software like Active Directory, or adding extra features for leave planning, the complexity and, of course, costs can skyrocket. The takeaway? Your spec needs to be tailored to your organization's specific needs. It's not just about what you want the software to do. It's about how it fits into your larger ecosystem, and make sure any uncertainties are ironed out well before you start talking numbers. That way, you'll get offers that are truly comparable and in line with your needs. Pitfall number 7. Another mistake is when the spec is missing key pieces of information, making it impossible for IT service providers to meet the requirements as stated. What does it look like in real life? Let's say the spec asks for a detailed plan, but doesn't give all the necessary details. For example, if you want to know how much disk space a solution will need, you have to consider things like how much data you'll be storing, how long you keep it, and your backup strategy as well. Or if you are trying to figure out the computing power required, the spec needs to include information about the number of users and how they will be using the system. A common stumbling block is when a spec asks for a proposal on the system's physical setup without mentioning how available the system needs to be. Without knowing the importance of the system to your business, or what kind of downtime is acceptable, it's tough for providers to suggest the right level of redundancy or backup systems. So, what's the fix? When you are putting together your requirements, you really need to think about all the data the IT provider might need to come up with a solid proposal. If you don't have all the details yet, consider providing some hypothetical scenarios so that the providers can still give you a meaningful estimate. That way, you'll get proposals that are actually doable and aligned with what you need. Pitfall number 8. Another common scenario in IT projects is building specifications from existing materials. It's not often that a project starts from a blank slate. More likely, it's a patchwork of pieces from past projects and corporate standards. It is a practical approach, sure. You've got a base to work from and there's no need to reinvent the wheel every time. But here's where things can get tricky. Sometimes these recycled elements aren't checked for their current relevance or alignment with the new project's unique needs. Imagine an IT service provider sifting through a spec only to find contradictions. It's like being given a map where the north keeps changing places. What happens then? A good partner might flag these inconsistencies, sparking a necessary review. Or they might prioritize specific over general requirements, navigating through the confusion. Take, for example, a procurement team that keeps attaching the same old technological standards to every project, not realizing they are mandating outdated software. Or consider a project that requires end-to-end encryption, but the attached general security requirements still ask for server-side data validation, a mismatch that could lead to significant issues. So, how do we avoid falling into this trap? It's all about verification. Whenever standard policies or repeatable sections are included in the specs, it is crucial to ensure they're not just current, but also in harmony with the project-specific demands. If there is a clash, the detailed requirements should take the lead, or each contradiction should be tackled individually. It's about making sure that the pieces of the puzzle not only fit together, but they are the right pieces for the picture you are trying to create. Pitfall number 9. This pitfall is about incorporating legal regulations directly into project specs without seeing if they match to the client's operations. This is crucial in fields like life science, where sticking to regulation is not just advisable, it's obligatory. The catch with legal regulation is that they are wide-ranging. They span entire sectors and might include details that don't relate to your project, or they are only relevant in certain situations. And your IT team might not be fully versed in these legal intricacies. Take a document management system, for example. Polish law states that shipment IDs must be readable without any special gadgets. Sure, you can include those advanced machine-readable codes, but that's up to you. It's not mandatory. If your specs simply echo this law, it leaves room for confusion. Are you asking for just the basic ID or advanced code, or both? So, what's the workaround? Treat legal regulation as background material rather than the main content. Your spec should clearly outline your requirements, especially focusing on areas not regulated by law, or where there are multiple ways to proceed. This clarity ensures your IT team knows precisely what's expected, helping keep your project on track and moving ahead. Pitfall number 10. When drafting a project specification, it is common practice to include the cost of licenses needed to run the software solution. However, trouble arises when there is no clear distinction between licenses the buyer already has and those the IT service provider is expected to supply. Here is why this mix-up is problematic. In many cases, especially with service software, the buyer might have already the necessary licenses, often under favorable terms through existing agreements. It is usually more cost-effective for the buyer to acquire any additional licenses directly rather than through the IT service provider. Moreover, different providers might offer these licenses under various models, complicating comparison of their offers. For instance, imagine a buyer with a Microsoft Enterprise agreement looking to develop a solution using Microsoft technologies. If the spec asks for details on the required server licenses without acknowledging the buyer's existing agreement, IT providers might include license costs based on different pricing models. This leads to a range of offers that are hard to compare, not because of the solution itself, but due to varying license costs. To steer clear of this, it's wise not to ask IT service providers for license pricing. Instead, the spec should clearly outline the number and type of licenses needed, distinguishing between what the buyer already possesses and what the provider needs to include. This approach ensures that proposals are evaluated on a level playing field, focusing on the solution's merits rather than the complexities of software licensing. And that wraps up our deep dive into the common pitfalls of IT software specifications. If anything we have discussed today has sparked questions, or if there is a specific challenge you are facing, I'm here to help. You can book a free 15-minute discovery call with me. Just shoot me an email and we'll set it up. You'll find my contact information in the description of this episode. In our call, we can explore tailored solutions and strategies to ensure your project's success. Looking forward to connecting with you soon. Until then, take care.
Fabrity specializes in bespoke software development, e-commerce, blockchain, and low-code solutions. We build software development teams covering all skills and project roles, as well as supporting our clients through the entire project lifecycle. We can help you augment your IT staff to meet the growing demand of your business, or build a dedicated team for a complex project. Alternatively, we can step in to enhance an existing solution or provide software consulting services. You can always count on our expertise. To find out more, visit our website at fabrity.com or schedule a free 15-minute discovery call. Looking forward to hearing from you.